Hi, I'm Steph Thompson, founder of the London Voice Boutique. Welcome to LVB Presents. We're a voiceover agency based in Soho, London, and in this second series, we're going to take you on a little journey behind the scenes with some of our actors. But also, I'm going to take you on a detour and talk to people on the production side of the industry to give you some of the fun stories and advice from the other side. Today I welcome Ravi B. Harry and Andy Mancuso, two very senior creatives at Sky, who I worked with many years ago at an ad agency called VCCP. Hello chaps, how are you?
I'm good, Steph.
Morning.
We're good.
Good. Okay, so you guys are creatives, but a lot of people who listen aren't necessarily in the industry already.
Yep.
Could you just explain what the role of a creative is for those who don't know already?
Okay.
Please.
Andy, do you want to go? Or
No,
do you want
you
me
go
to
for
it. So a creative, in the sense of what we do, a creative team, we are an advertising creative team,
Yep.
which answers a creative brief. So a brief will come to us, and the brief will have a brand, a proposition, what they're trying to achieve. So let's say Coke Zero want to launch a new drink, and
Yep.
it's called Coke P. They will come to us and say, look, we want to launch this drink. It's the first Coke drink that uses organic sugar,
Right.
rather than using any.
We'll find
sugar.
the USP of any product.
Yes.
And then we'll go and Andy and I will just chat about it, look at the product, try and understand what the uniqueness is
Yeah.
and try and find an angle which will make this Coke P stand out amongst 100,000 drinks which
Yeah.
are out there.
Yep.
And then that idea might be, one of our tasks within the brief will be, we need a TV advert,
Yeah.
we need a radio advert, we need a print campaign. So
Yeah.
we'll need to find an idea which can work across that whole spectrum of media.
Yeah.
It might just be the one it might be the one area. They
Yeah.
might just want radio, they might just want print. But
Yes.
we just find the answer to answer
Yeah.
and
So
get
you're
the product
finding
out there.
an idea that will work across a campaign if you need to. Otherwise, it might just be one bit of the
Yes.
media.
Again, in our initial ideation will be just trying to find a hook, and that might be a memorable slogan. It might be an idea which celebrates, that gives Coke P some fame, and then again, we will take that we might have quick scamps. We'll draw scamps or drawings.
What's a scamp?
A scamp is a drawing. So we might do a poster idea, where we reclaim the word P. Or
Yeah.
do
I mean,
something.
we've been in the industry for a long time now, so do they still use the word scamp?
Yeah, we do, because we're old. But,
Old school.
And then we'll go to the client,
Yeah.
Coke, and say, well, first we'll go to our creative director and say, look, we've got 10 different ideas how we can really kind of bring Coke P to life. And he's like, that one's good. I like that one because it gives us fame. Like that one because it's got a pink donkey in it and it's
Yeah.
unusual. And then we'll take, normally from the big kind of a pool of 10 ideas, we'll go down to 3, work on them a bit more, tighten them up, really kind of work against the proposition of what our task is. And then we'll go see the client.
Yeah.
And then we'll say, look, we've got 3 ideas. We think this one does this one does that, this one will give you a bit of fame here. And then it will be up to the client and ourselves to decide which way they want to go. And then
Yeah.
we'll go make it. And
No,
if
it's not always the case that the answer's there in the first presentation. They might send us away and say, we actually want to say this about the product or
Yeah.
that. And then we might have to go away and sort of think of new stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. What we find in the 20 odd years we've been doing this, that first round is almost like marketing teams, brands, use us as a kind of like fact-finding expedition. They use the first round of creativity to really kind of hone in what they really want to say. So sometimes you might not hit it, but you might uncover something which they should say, or they feel like, what, we missed this off the brief. This is what we want to say. The fact that it was 50p, forget about the name, it's about the price, because price is an issue now. So it might be something which moves the kind of goalposts a bit,
Right.
which allows them to reconsider what they really want to say.
Yeah.
Or they look at the work and say, our competitor did something 40 years ago. We can't go near that. So
Right.
can you find something
Okay.
new? So
Or in the case of the meerkat, they will say, a meerkat, you want to use a meerkat? That is brilliant. Let's go and do a meerkat.
Right.
So the pink Pink Donkey might be the one. Yeah.
Well, it's memorable that way, isn't it? You're trying to
Exactly.
find something that's going to be memorable. And within a team, generally, within a creative team, you've got an art director and a
Yes.
copywriter. Would you say that's the traditional roles that you two play?
It
or
was
do you
the
work,
traditional role.
How
You
do
know,
you two?
I think the landscape's changed slightly, and we need to find ourselves doing both roles.
Yeah. So how did you start out? How did you two meet? And I know you met at college.
We met, you
But
might
how
have heard the story before, but we met at University of Central England, Birmingham, many moons ago.
Yeah.
But it was a bit like playing football in the playground.
Yeah.
Everyone had to pair up at one point, and we stood there, and everyone started to pair up, and we were just looking round, and then
Hoping
we
to
just
get
realised, there was the last two to pick.
That's so
So
funny.
I was like, oh, we're not getting picked, are we?
Oh,
it's
no,
like, oh,
you're
thank
the
you.
two left off.
and I'm the
Yeah.
guy at the back of the room, but
Yeah.
I'm still
It turned
available.
to Andy,
So
like,
Look at you
I
two.
guess we're going to have to pair up.
And look where you are now.
Yes.
And that's how you started out as creative team together. You just
Yeah.
stuck. You
I
just
mean,
found
look,
it
it
worked.
was-
stuck
It
together.
was a
being
teeny
the
bit
operative
more
word.
designed than that, but yeah, I mean, essentially it was. Everyone got paired up, and I knew I wanted. Andy had his first choice. It was like his first draft. This is the dream ticket. These are the list. And he went down it, and it was
came
like
to you.
he's picked, she's picked.
Oh, stop it.
Gonna have to go Ravi, but it's not that bad.
Anyone else? Anyone else still available?
And then so we teamed up in the start of the third year, and then we started working together on a portfolio. So we'd choose, we'd have modules, but essentially the course was like choose brands,
Yep.
choose some problems to solve, celebrate, try and create some work, whether it's a TV ad or post campaign, try and celebrate your connection and make some work which will stand out. So
What course, can I ask? Just like, what course were you doing at
yeah,
uni?
so we were doing a course which is basically advertising, but it was called visual communications, and
Okay.
it was a kind of broad church of anything which was communication. So it could
Yeah.
be illustration, it could be graphic design, it could be photography. In our case, it was advertising.
So we specialised in the third year
Right.
into advertising.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if people are looking to get into advertising,
Yeah.
say, and they want to be a creative, would you say that is still a good way in? Or
That's
is
a good
they-
way. That's not the only way. There
Yeah.
are sort of more specific advertising courses out there,
Yeah.
ones that are more recognised by those in the industry.
Yeah.
And they have,
But-
I'm not saying that our course was great. It was, for us, it was like a really nice stepping stone into just getting into the world of advertising. But you're right, they're much more specific courses like the Bucks course or the SCA course or the Watford course, which are, it's run by almost like ex-advertising people, and it's much more focused on how to get you a job in advertising and how to get your brain thinking critically, which will, be perfect for advertising.
Right.
So our course was not that.
Yeah.
But so we came out, and I felt like we had to learn on the job, because the 3 years we'd studied for didn't really kind of get us at the right pace to
Yeah.
be into the world of advertising. But those courses like Watford, I think they really get you placements. I mean, we got a placement, but they get you much more connected to the world. They've got
Right.
really good networks and stuff. So
Is it essential to do courses?
I
to
was
get
about
into-
to say
Yeah,
that
'cause do
it's
they look-
not. I mean, ideally you
Yeah.
go into a course, but it's not the be all and end all
Right.
not to come in via a course or something like that. You know.
yeah, I mean, it'll be remiss not to mention our creative director at Sky, Rob Welch, who didn't do that at all.
Oh,
And
really?
he had a much more unorthodox
Yeah.
journey into advertising. He got into an agency. Dare I say, he was like working in in the mailroom, if you like.
Yeah, and then worked his way up.
Just had a real interest of what these creatives were doing, and kept on checking in, looking at briefs, looking at what work they did, and in his spare time really kind of started to get a kind of portfolio together, and
Brilliant.
he's got in, and he's like,
Yeah, I
he's
can do
brilliant.
that, he said,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I
actually
love
set his mind
that.
to
I
it.
love
Yeah.
that it doesn't have to be a
Not
certain way,
at all.
and that's what I like about this industry generally. I think if you're willing to work hard, you can start at the
Yeah.
bottom and find that way in, or you can go a more traditional route. But I was interested to see.
Yeah.
And when
how
we
you
left
guys
VCCP,
started.
they started to recruit people that weren't even in
Oh,
advertising.
really?
Yeah.
So started to bring people in that had an interest in other things.
Yeah,
I think what you find, right, and it's like any industry, when you try and get people from the same pool. Guess what you're going to get? The same sort of thinking.
Yeah.
You're going to get the same sort of ideas, the same approach, the same methodology, the same strategy to solving problems. But when you get someone from a different background who haven't taken that traditional approach or that journey, they're going to think of solving a problem in a different way. And sometimes you'll get something completely different. And that's how, most advertising looks the same, feels the same, logos in the same place, has the same sort of music, has the same sort of strap lines. It's a formula. We kind of, whether we subconsciously do it or not, we create these formulas and we stick to the structure. When you get someone who doesn't know the structure, who's not familiar with a formula, they're going to approach something slightly left field. And that's what advertising needs to do more of, is get people from different backgrounds. Get comedians in, get people who've worked in theatre, because they'll approach it differently, and you'll get much more fresher thinking and new ideas.
That's really good to hear. And I think, we found that especially actually with the voiceover side of things, people are definitely starting to look outside the traditional way of doing things. And it's good to hear that from a creative in an industry like this, where there are opportunities for people that can't necessarily go to university and do a course. And I like to hear that, because it is so expensive now for young people to go to uni. I think it's really encouraging to hear that it used to be so closed and so hard to get into it, but now there's other ways of getting into it. So it's really good to hear. I'm going to move you on now, onto you guys
I keep
obviously
looking at the camera. I shouldn't look at the camera, right? I just keep like, hey, how you doing?
Like a rabbit in headlights.
Focus on me. So, obviously, as a creative, I wanted to ask you what you enjoy about the job the most, but also hoping that part of that might be getting into a studio recording with voiceovers. But, what would you say, without leading that question, which bit is the bit you enjoy the most?
Go on, Anne.
Well, no, I'd start with, there's many different areas that you could say are our favourite areas. The coming up, the sitting around, the chatting about something, like talking about the weekend. It might be something that we did over the weekend that influences. So it could be the ideation.
I watched the car this weekend.
Did you?
There might be an idea, but for us, it's all about the making and the doing, and it's getting our hands dirty in the process.
You know what? We are so lucky. Let's not forget that this is a dream job. Like my first point of call was to be a footballer. I wanted to be a footballer. I was not good enough, way not good enough. But my second was to do something related to art. I loved art. That's all I did at school. That's all I did in my spare time, was draw and paint and create stuff. So this is a dream job. So every aspect of it is brilliant. Like as Andy says, the ideation, come up with the ideas. But once your idea gets bought, which is an absolute, it feels so. There's no better feeling when someone says, "Brilliant, we're going to buy it, we're making it, let's go into production." Whether it's like choosing a voiceover, finding a director, finding an artist to collaborate, filming it, making it, doing the post-production on it. It's such a pleasure to be every step of the way. We love doing what we're doing.
It's not the easiest. I mean, we've made it out to be sort of the easiest thing to get into. It's not by any means the easiest thing to get into. And we struggled at the beginning of our career to get into it. And I stepped out for a second thinking, this wasn't, and I started landscape gardening with my dad and stuff like that. He called me effing useless a few too many times.
You went back to it.
I call him fucking useless as well. Most
and
days.
Here we are.
Your dad's not wrong. Your dad's not wrong. That's it. Yeah.
Well, but what I think is, for me, when I was producing, one of the best bits was seeing your scripts would land on my desk, and it was like, right, how do we make this work? And then the team, as a team, making it happen and standing on the first day of a shoot when it's all getting set up, I used to get so excited. But then also the post-production side, where you're then putting it all together and it's all coming together. And I always had a passion for the voiceover side. That's why I got into it. But just generally, I think it's such a wonderful process. But there is the pressure for you guys to always come up with the ideas. I mean, that's when you're in it, it doesn't mean you're going to stay in it. If you don't keep delivering, it must be really tough to constantly have to come up with fresh ideas. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but it's a really great challenge for us. It really is, like, to approach something, and every job you do, you take something you've learned from one to the other, and it's like, over the 20 years we've learned so much, in our experiences and our different approaches and things that we've kind of done or made have always bled into the next project. So honestly, we do get, for us, I feel like we get better as we go along.
Have you guys ever got to a point where you couldn't answer a brief, and and then what were you going to do as a result of that? What happens if you can't?
Yeah.
What we tend to do, sort of, we hit a brief and we try and scattergun. Sort of, we try to go in many different areas.
Right.
Hopefully, one of those areas will touch the brief in a way that everyone's happy with it, basically.
But yeah, we worked on projects which, as Andy was saying, like you go first round of creative ideas and you're like, you haven't cracked it. The creative director will say, nothing here, let's start again. And
Right.
you'll go again. There's
Is
nothing
that disheartening?
here. It's so disheartening. I
Yeah.
mean, like the project we're working on at the moment, which I shouldn't mention, right?
I don't know what's going to come out your mouth.
I'm just saying, we did about 20 ideas.
Well,
like,
for this latest Sky,
yes.
you can say Sky.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
working
yeah,
for
of
Sky,
course.
so latest Sky ad.
Yeah, for the latest
Yeah.
now ad that we've finally bought and we're making
Yeah.
and it's in production and stuff. We did about 25 ideas.
Right.
Like, and I'm talking about big kind of concept ideas
That's
where
hard.
they'll go again. And we got a call just before Christmas to say, look, let's put tools down, let's
Yep.
start again in the new year.
Wow.
And this was like just before Christmas broke up, and then we got another call right at the end of that day on that Friday. It's like, client wants to see something on the first week of Jan, so can you work over Christmas? And that's where it's like, you're really like, oh man, we need to crack it, and
That's
so
hard.
it's tough, but
yeah,
you just dig deep.
and you found it, and you cracked it.
Yeah, I think most times you do, right?
Oh, look at you.
I can't say. Yeah, I mean, because the most competitive aspect of it is that you're working with other teams trying to crack it.
Yeah.
So
It's like a race to who breaks
that's
it.
where the pressure's
Yeah.
on, where
Yeah.
you are not the only team that have got this brief.
No.
3 other teams are,
Yeah.
and the pressure is
And are
against.
they younger than you?
And
you're
they're
like,
younger.
oh.
They've got no kids. They can put the time in. They've got no waking up in the
Christmas,
middle of the night.
Schmissmas, they don't
exactly,
care.
They don't care, and they're hungry. They're hungry. They've got want to make a name for themselves.
Yeah.
So that's the pressure where you've got these young bucks
Yeah.
coming in who are just will work just as hard as you. They might not have the experience, but they'll put the time in. They'll put the effort in. So you need to be always constantly
You're always trying to prove yourself.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how many years you've got. All the creative director's going to see is the ideas on his table.
Yeah.
They're not going to look at, this guy's got 18 years, these guys got 1 year.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
just say, which is the best idea?
Fair enough. Okay, so moving it slightly into the voiceover side of things, how do you come up with a voiceover brief, and how do you then choose a voiceover? Because obviously that's what relates to me as a voiceover.
I mean,
Agent.
a lot of the stuff we tend to do is looking for sort of natural, believable VO artists. So it's quite.
The fashion has changed a lot, isn't it?
Yeah,
From
totally.
voiceover
But
to
generally, when we're looking, we tend to we want someone to be sort of quite down to earth and real in the stuff that we're looking for.
You know what? It depends on the brief.
Do
Right?
you look at your film? At which stage are you looking at it? At the writing stage, or when you've got the film done and you're like, okay, this is now what's going to fit?
At the writing stage, probably not. People, good creatives write with someone in mind.
Yeah.
So if you're writing a script, you're already thinking, right, Stephen Fry would
Yeah.
be the voice of this. How would he write it? Because if you let's say we want someone who's Oxford educated, he's reading this about a product, blah 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 blah. If you have that person in mind,
Yeah.
it helps you write in
Yes,
their kind of point
that
of
makes
view, right,
sense.
and their tone. And then once that script's bought, that's when we start looking at voiceover options. And again, the script will dictate. If we're doing a script where we want a big Hollywood voice,
Yes.
we'll start
So
looking
you
in that
do
space.
think about it at script
100%.
stage.
We tend to put sort of an animatic,
Yes.
which is pictures sort of laid down to our script to start with, and we'll do that. Ravi tends to put his voice on
Yeah.
all of it
Yeah.
because of my monotone voice.
I like doing
Ravi
a
adds a bit
dummy
of-
voiceover.
So we've always got this clean palette to start with,
Yeah.
and then who can really bring this to life?
Stream
and
all the
stuff like
Sky
that.
Sports,
Yeah.
no contract.
But
on
also,
there.
but that's very voiceovery, Ravi.
Yeah, no, so that's the only
right?
voice I've got. It's Mr.
Oh,
Voiceover.
okay.
But
Because actually you have to time it as well, don't
We
you?
have to
You have to
time
have
it.
an idea of how long it's going to be,
100%.
and So,
when we first got into the industry, we had to read. I was in charge of reading all the copy and stuff like that, the T's and C's. And so I'm reading like with a fine tooth comb to make sure there's no mistakes and anything. Yeah. So I'm a really slow reader. So then Ravi has to read my 30-second and make sure that does fit within the 30 seconds.
Because there's no point selling an idea or a script, especially in like when we do a radio ad, where we've overwritten it. The client's not going to check it for time.
No.
They're going to read a script and say, great, like it, hits the points, it delivers this message, ticks that box, blah, 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 celebrates our call to action. Our job is to make sure it fits in the 30, right?
Yep.
So we have to read it how we would want it read.
Yep.
Same tone, same speed, and then factor in, might need T's and C's at the end as well. So
you really do need to think about it then quite early on 100%. As who you're going to have, because if you're going to have a deep gravitas-y voice, that's going to be a slower read. If it's going to be a fast, high energy voice, then you've got more time. So actually it is such an important part of your brief, your decision right at the beginning. You mentioned Stephen Fry, and you always probably think initially in the kind of well-known voices just realm, because you're like, well, who's the type of voice I'm looking for? And then you get the budget and you probably go, right, who would be...
That's when we come to you, Steph. And
not just me.
Do you know
someone
Tom Hanks?
like
we want Tom Hanks. What is the Croydon version of Tom Hanks?
So is it that you would always like to use celebrity voices, or actually you don't just want celebrity voices, that actually there is a natural fashion at the moment for just your everyday voice
as Andy was saying, I think
it's not just budget related.
I guess back in the day it was like, which star can we get? Because people are star fuckers, right? They want to hear a voice, excuse my French. People want to hear a voice that they know, like Matt Lucas, David Walliams. They want to, because radio, especially radio, for us, is like the more famous for us sometimes is more engaging. It's like people are like, oh, I know that voice. It's topical, it's current,
and they can associate a certain person with that voice as well, so they know.
And a lot of the stuff we sometimes write has got a character in there as well. So famous people are really good at that, or actors are good at that. But you're right, there's definitely much more of a trend, as you can see, in just getting normal everyday kind of voices, people, because they're very relatable. It's not people want to be spoke to by people that they can connect with.
I agree.
So it just depends on the brand, depends what you're working on, depends on the script. But
I think that the influences outside in the economic environment have a massive effect on voiceovers, funnily enough, and at the moment it's very popular for northern voices and the everyday person that you don't feel spoken down to, and I can see the fashions change regularly.
I was about to say that the word fashion comes into it as well, comes into play. Who's hot topic at the moment? Who would you like to get into this ad that everyone's topping?
And again, it's a good thing where now we've got much more representation of people within the voiceover space, right? Because trust me, 15 years ago, you went to male voiceovers or female voiceovers, that's all you had, and it was just white males, white females. And now we've got much more diversity in there. You've got loads. You've got people with lisps. That would not even been a thing, which is amazing, right? It's much more diverse. So. And brands want to connect with people. They want to show that they care about these issues. These issues are important. These are social issues. So to have people who have a speech impediment or...
Okay, that's interesting, because I had a voicecaster on last week's episode saying how if you have a lisp or if you have something that is a bit different, that's a positive thing these days, and people do want to use that, which, as you said before, 10, 15 years ago, you wouldn't have. Would you say that would then get approved down the line, that people do want to hear that?
If you've got 100%, if you've got a rationale for it, not even a rationale, but if you think, look, we think this is really important to this brand.
Good.
It's a brand issue that they're trying to address. They're trying to put the spotlight. Why wouldn't you put that voice on there, right? It's really good, especially, as I said, as I was just talking about creative ideas, having people from different pools is a good thing. So having people who are with a speech impediment or lisp or speak differently to the normal voiceover, that's a good thing, because it's going to make your brand stand out. So
brilliant. I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah, I think it's really important.
People know when they're being sold to as well, and when something's too perfect, it's not right. So what we tend to do is we try to look when we're looking for models, we try to look for sort of down to earth real people.
Yeah.
You know, we
Brilliant.
don't want someone being sort of too perfect.
Yeah.
And it's the same with sort of VO artists and stuff like that as well.
I think that's brilliant. I think that shows how much the industry has evolved over the last 10, 15 years, because it didn't used to be that.
Not at all.
And now I feel that people want to see not just diverse, but just someone they can relate to. It's normalising things that you would just be like, oh, brilliant. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I sound like that person, and I think it's really nice to open up that.
Always. I mean, like you see, like now, even like Channel 4 or BBC, that they've kind of like annexed the news, that type of voiceover. They're heavily on regional.
Yes,
back in the day, you wouldn't hear like a voice from like Wales and a voice from Yorkshire or someone from Durham. It's really nice that you've got a breadth of people's voices celebrating that kind of inclusion of everyone that kind of lives in the UK. So
it helps. I've heard sort of quite often that the London accent is a turn off now. So people are moving out of London.
They can sort of do one. These people.
London was super popular a couple of years ago. It's still quite popular, but that's interesting.
You know, if you want to talk to people, try and grab from people up north to just play London accents and stuff like that might be a turn off.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look, know your audience.
Yeah. Yes,
that's
absolutely.
the most important thing, right? If you're whichever brand you are, look at who you're talking to and try and make sure you represent them or you're speaking to them in a kind of authentic way.
Because if you're not,
you're going to turn off.
Perfect. And so when you're listening, so obviously as creatives, as a producer, I used to choose some reels for you. You'd give me a brief, and I would say, okay, let me get some voiceover suggestions for you, and then I would send them to you. And you would have an email with, say, 10, 15 different voices that I thought fitted your brief. And I'm talking as a producer, not as a voiceover agent. At that point, you'll probably give each person about 5 to 10 seconds, absolute tops, each one you'll listen to.
Yeah.
What would you say when you're listening now to reels? What is it that you think makes a good reel? What's the first thing that you go, oh, that's interesting? Is it the natural voice? Is it what is it that makes a good reel for you?
It's tough because it's quite nuanced, right? Because you go in listening to reels with your script in mind and how... regardless of how they sound, you're like, how will our script or that call to action, how do we want that read? So you're looking, whether we like it or not, you're looking for their voice
to fit. I know, and that's really hard because people will have done a demo, they can't fit every style and delivery on that reel. So that's what I do struggle with sometimes, because people go, well, do you have it in a more upbeat fashion on your reel? And you're like, well, no, but he can do it. He's an actor.
Right. As creatives, we're loose, right? We understand. Like, we were casting for something and for an Irish VO recently, and we were like, well, nothing they've got on their reel sounds like what we want.
Yeah.
But we were like, they're actresses. We can direct them. Doesn't matter.
I mean, that's a good thing that they haven't got our script on their reel. Otherwise, it's been done before.
Exactly, and it's so hard to explain that sometimes to producers or creatives. I think they're always like, well, or maybe it's the client. I don't know which part of the process that is saying I can't hear what I want to hear.
It's a tough one because we have to. We've got our list who we want to use. We have to give that to the client for them to kind of sign off. And sometimes they're not as creatively minded as us. They can't see the fact that we can see. She's an actress. Yeah. She could put on a role. She could take direction. She can read it exactly how we want it.
Yeah.
But her reel might not have what we have, and they'll just judge it on the first, as you say, the first 5 or 10 seconds when they press play on the first. And her first thing might be a documentary read, and you press on documentary, and they're like, "Ooh, I can't see this."
Right?
We haven't got a lot of life in this read, have they?
Exactly. So it's tough.
So frustrating. So then the other thing I have with this is that then we get asked, "Can you get them to do a test on their phone?" Now, so you get the script sent over, and with could you do this naturally, but bright, but not too fast, but this and that, and so then as an agent, I've got to say to my artist, okay, go home. Record this on your phone as best you can, trying to predict what the creatives are trying to say, which have used probably a few too many adjectives, no offense. And it's not you specifically, I'm just saying, it can be quite difficult when there are too many adjectives.
It's calling you difficult.
I think I heard that. I read between the lines,
I'm just speaking to all creators out there. Try and use not too many adjectives because it gets it really hard for us to suss out. It's like, and then try and work out what you want to hear, but then get them to do a test on a phone, which actually isn't very easy to do a test. I've had to try it before to sort of say, this is the sort of thing. And it's really hard to do. And then they don't get the job because they didn't deliver it on a phone. And yet if you'd got them into a studio, I feel like you're in a lose-lose situation there. And I rarely win jobs off the back of a test, and yet they won't get them through the door unless they do a test. How do we... What would you say about that? Do you think it's still something that people just have to do, or do you not ask for tests because you get that
we personally never ask for tests.
Oh, good. Okay.
We've never asked for tests.
Maybe we should. Maybe we
and I think, maybe I didn't know test was an option.
Well, it's ideal.
Can you get Tom Hanks to read?
So a lot of agents are saying no to tests now, or unpaid tests, because it doesn't work. It kind of, there was a time where people were like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. And then now we're coming to the point where I'm like, do you know what? I'd rather you did a Zoom with them and did a face-to-face test to see if you think they can deliver it. Maybe pay them 100 quid or 50 quid to do that, because that is a better way of actually finding out if they can do it, rather than them at home under the duvet going, I think this is what you want, but no, they haven't. And then
you're steering them slightly, even on that Zoom.
Oh,
at
exactly.
Least you can say,
no,
I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting this, and then at least you're getting closer to the answer.
Seeing just a cold script or a paragraph that you have to interpret what the tone is, the intonation, the indiction, and all that sort of stuff. It's really hard for anyone to kind of nail it.
But we get asked to do that a lot, and it's really difficult because the client hasn't heard what they wanted on the show reel. Sure. So I just wondered what your thoughts were on that, because it sounds like you haven't asked people to do that, and that's brilliant. No, we haven't. But
we're quite lucky. Not lucky, but we're good at like getting it up the chain, getting it to our creative director, saying this is who we want to use. Yeah. And our creative directors are really good. Like Aaron always says to us, "Who do you want to go with?"
Oh, brilliant!
And who's your first choice? So it's really good.
That is good.
Some people dictate, I'll go with that one, but Aaron's brilliant. He's like, he always asks our opinion first, which is great. And then we'll go up.
He might not agree with it every time, but at least you feel like...
On your head be it, he says. Oh, you want to go with...
Oh, you thought that guy, that woman. Oh, right.
And then you can sense where his head's at.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, right. I'm going to change this into the fun general questions now.
I can open my legs now.
Jesus. Who would you, in an ideal world, and you may have already directed them, but who would you most like to direct in a voiceover booth? It can be anyone from Tom Hanks to whoever you want.
I was actually going to say Tom Hanks until we walked through the door. Wow. And now I'm going to change it. I think I'd like Ravi and I, just sort of fun guys, just want a great session to come out of it. I'll go for a Will Ferrell or someone like that.
Oh, that's a good one. Classic.
You know, you get the script done in the first 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and then just have a really good chat with the guy.
I'm gonna go for with Andy. I mean, most creators just want to work with someone that they probably dreamed of working with. So Dave Chappelle, someone like that, someone just like someone that's gonna make us laugh.
Brilliant. Yeah. So comedians seem to be very popular right now as well.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I would have gone Jack Black. That's been said before by Sorrel. I have to say that was genius. Okay, what is the most unusual direction you've given to somebody in a voiceover booth? Have you got?
Please do. Yeah.
This is a good one.
Okay.
Whilst we're at VCCP with yourself, we worked on O2, and O2 were the sponsors of Arsenal Football Club. And we were doing a script, which we wrote a script, which was, the opening line was, nothing beats watching Arsenal live.
Yeah.
True, it's facts. And we had Sean Bean. He was the voice of O2, still is the voice of O2. And he came into the booth, and we're like, yeah, Sean, we've got a great script for you today, which is an upbeat script. We need your good energy. And he got the script, and he looked at it, put his glasses on, and he was like, okay, nothing beats watching Arsenal live. And he read it again, nothing beats. And he just looked at us like, I can't say that, lads. I was like, what? He goes, I can't say it. I'm on the board of Sheffield United. It's like, I can't say that. So we had to change the script, and he refused to say it.
I'm not surprised. Did
no
one think that maybe you needed to check that before you record that?
It's like, he's the voiceover. It's not Sean Bean. He's just his voice.
We were fresh into advertising.
Oh, honey. Rookie mistake.
They don't reject scripts or
they
words,
do.
they?
He's on retainer. He's paid to do it.
I love
he's
it.
going to read
I was
whatever
waiting for you to go, well, that was your fault, Steph. So it wasn't, I'm glad to say.
But he changed it to nothing beats watching football live.
I think our strangest request, again, VCP, we were doing Cadbury's Fabulous Fingers, and for the older ones listening, we had this advert and it looked like Dallas. So we had to tell someone to be a chocolate biscuit and put it in the style of this Dallas-esque voice.
So. And they had to fall down the steps and deliver a line as they were falling down the steps.
And did they
breaking up?
That's hilarious.
Oh, yes, you are chocolatey. Yeah, they were brilliant. I can't remember who she was.
I can't remember.
Incredible.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to lead you on to the last question. It's 5 o'clock on a Friday night and you've just finished a recording session. What do you do in Soho? Don't say you're going home. What would you have done in your youth? Come on.
Would have gone home, probably. We're the most boring people.
Oh, you've got us in here. You've got us in here because we've got so much luck. But generally,
you know what? I tell you what we used to do. Again, this is probably just as boring as going home. We would go to Starbucks and we'd get a hot chocolate.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah,
and it hasn't changed.
Sorry,
honestly,
you were 20-something years old, and that's what you would
working
do.
at Hakahodu, and we would finish work and we'd go to Starbucks and we'd get 2 hot chocolates
on a Friday night.
On a Friday night, drink those and then go home and never see each other for the weekend. Yeah.
Never talk till 9 in the morning.
Go to the pub?
No,
very seldomly. Lunchtime was for that.
Oh, you're old school. Lunchtime drinking.
Yeah, we are boring.
And then come 5 o'clock.
I'd love to go to cinema like now. It'd be great if we could finish, and if we had time on our hands and we had 3 hours to just do something, I'd probably go see a film. I love films.
Ravi's like the Energizer bunny. Yeah. Like he'll come into
Duracell, get it right. It's Duracell. Don't mix them up with their arch enemy. Energizer.
I think they've got one as well, but it'll go into a situation, all the life in the world, and then slowly, sort of within 5. Yeah.
Come 5 o'clock, I'm just like slightly bipolar. Just
That's hilarious.
Got no energy, Ravi.
You're done. Oh, well, thank you so much.
I think that's
been really, really good and really helpful. And that's it for the show. Hope you liked it, and if you did, please rate and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. LVB Presents was presented by me, Steph Thompson, and produced by Mike Hanson for Pod People Productions, and recorded by Sean Dios at Jungle Studios in Soho, London. See you next time.